which basics, this is a tough question. You got to be introspective on this one. Okay, my friends, which basics have you gotten away from that you'll put back into play, that you know work? What do you know works that you've gotten away from that you're going to commit to putting back into play right away? And the basics could be anything from your prospecting. It could be any steps in your sales process that maybe you've been skipping because of the way, what do you know works that you have gotten away from that you will put back into play? What about Wendy? Basics that you'll put back into play?
I would have to say, like you said, just like, I wouldn't know exactly what to say.
What basics always seem to work for you no matter what's going on? Which steps in the sale?
I feel honestly, like you said before, it's just selling the product, selling yourself to the person, making sure you listen to them. I feel like that's the biggest factor, listening to their pros and cons. Because like you show them a vehicle, you can sell the car like to the max, but if you don't listen to like little things that they will like feed back to you, you miss out on the certain things. So I would say selling the products, selling yourself to the person, but also a big factor is to listen to them, because sometimes listening to them, you can either learn how to tell them, hey, maybe this is not the right vehicle for you, or learning how to better close that deal faster, if anything.
I think, Sean, oftentimes a lot of things from the desk perspective out is the inventory has been so low for so long that we haven't had a proper qualifying with our customer base. So we haven't actually found qualifying wants and needs in a car, and to really make sure that before we go and pick a car, that's been established. We've only had one car. So whether your wants and needs were X, it didn't matter because you only had Y. And I think that the biggest thing that we're missing now, because what we are heavy in most now is platinum pathfinders. So somebody comes in and says, I need a 7-row vehicle, and blindly as a salesperson, we show them the platinum pathfinder. But we don't qualify that person to make them understand what their wants and needs or their budget is and how it's going to predicate itself with the vehicle that I'm showing them. Nor do we ever try to merge that gap prior to numbers ever being presented. So what's happening is a lot of these customers think that we're showing them the car that makes the most sense. And that, of course, they're wowed by the leather and the diamond stitched X and the heated and ventilated, because they've never in their lives thought that they could own something like that. And they think as a salesperson, I'm showing them the car that they're going to drive home in. When meanwhile, maybe as a salesperson, I should have said, well, listen, based off the wants and needs, I should be putting you in an S model. Unfortunately, I don't have an S model. Let's talk about the wants and needs on why you need a 7-passenger vehicle. Oh, well, I have 3 kids. I know as a youngest son of 3 boys, big boys, that my mom had us in a Caprice our entire lives. You don't need a 7-passenger vehicle just because you have 3 children. And honestly, I don't care how many friends that they drive around, because very often were me and my 3 brothers ever in the same car together. And if we were, only one friend was allowed to get in that freaking car.
Yes.
It was only XY seats left. So again, wants and needs being established. Am I buying a car for the need of my son's friend or my kid's friends? Or am I buying it for me and my family to get around? And again, bringing somebody that says, I need a 7-passenger vehicle, the art of bringing them down to the S model Rogue at that point is really the art that I think has been missing. Whereas, I mean, just this week, we've shown the wrong car just because the customer said, well, I don't like red. Who cares what color they like? At the end of the day, I'm showing them the car and the product that fits what they're looking for, their wants, their needs, and their likes, right? And if that makes sense, as far as I'm concerned, show that car. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, don't worry. If it's not the color, I can find the color, but I want to make sure I show you the right car. And right. I think that's something that we have completely been missing, but I think where the weakness is product knowledge and professionalism with the process.
Okay, so how many of you guys feel like you need to get back to qualifying and assessing customer needs? Raise your hand if that's an opportunity for you. Maybe you've gotten away from it, or you could start asking some more questions to really understand the customer and be able to suggest to the customer. And you guys feel that way, that that's an opportunity for you?
You guys should all be raising your hands. Everybody should be raising their hands right now.
He's like, I ain't raising nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, John, let me hear from John and T on this one. So, Steve, thank you. And John and T, what what basics do you feel like you've gotten away from that you're going to put back into play? John, I know you used to sell a ton of cars way back when. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think the most important thing for me is being in the now. And like Steve said, really understanding, even I think Wendy even said it, really understanding, because if you listen to the customer will tell you how to sell them the car. You just got to listen. The way the market's been, no inventory is, like Steve said, I mean, you had no choice. I mean, I got eight orange. That's what I got. And you're putting them in it. But if you're understanding, you're listening to the customer, they will tell you how to sell them the vehicle. I think for me, it's really me, my personal level, because when I get it with a customer, I can tell you everything about them from their car to the desk. And that's how I work. I get more on a personal level than I do the salesman. I take the salesman hat off and I become a person with them. I get rid of that car salesman stigma of what they all think. And the best deal, I believe, is, the best up they say is the up you have in front of you. And if you pay a little more attention, even those they're kicking tires that aren't buying, and they've been shopping here, there, everywhere. It's an older lady, it's a family, it's a wife. There's always another part of the equation. And I always went by, the 3 M's. It's either me, the money, or the machine. You sell yourself, you sell your dealership, you sell the car. And if you don't have those, it's one of those. And it's always fighting the objective. And if the numbers are right, you drive my car home now. Well, no. Well, why not? And I think a lot of people are certain, at times they don't know how to beat the objective. They don't know how to understand. I think certain people, and I've done it, and I still do it. I get stumped, but it's understanding, because you're not really listening. They're telling you what they want. And like Steve even said, well, I want a 7-passenger. Why? Well, it looks nice. Or is it because it's what you really need, but it doesn't fit your budget? So there's a lot of, and I think even in a meeting we had last week, it was spend a little more time, before running. We run to them, qualify, a lot more qualifying. Just really getting back to the basics. The number one tool is the T-square. My father told me that a long time ago. You follow that box, you'll sell a car.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I love everything you said there. I love what you said about taking your car salesperson hat on and getting personal with the customers. I remember the first time we met, you talked about that was one of your strengths and how it caused people to come back to you over and over again and give you referrals. Guys, I mean, that's so true, right? If imagine you're a fly in the wall walking with a customer. How happy are you? How much enthusiasm are you pouring into that walk around presentation? Does it look like someone just ran over your puppy? Or are you like excited that you've got a customer? And when you get a customer on the phone, can they hear your smile through the phone? Everything what John said, guys, is real life. That's what sells people. So the more we got to let go of our fear and be in the moment, because all that fear crap and all the wishing it was still the way it was, it takes away from your ability to really enjoy what you do. And if you don't enjoy what you do, how are you going to be as awesome a car salesperson as you can be, right? That's a T. What about you, brother? What's your one thing that the basics that you're going to put back into play for yourself?
I really just feel like, as far as going back to the basic, I just feel like it's pretty much what everybody else is saying. Is just basically really doubling down on what these customers are, actually looking for and what they're actually wanting. Because a lot of people have felt in this previous market, you can't get what you want. You can't buy what you want. It's just not here. It's not there. And I believe that now it's coming back to the point now where people are having a little bit of more options, or more period. And I just feel as though it's important for everybody, or us, to go back to making sure we really understand the customer's needs and expectations. Whether we feel as though it's important or not, it's important to the customer. We have to make sure that that's known to them first before we just X that out. I think that's the biggest thing.
I also think, Sean, just kind of, myself, Jamil, John, we're all kind of familiar with this kind of sale. You obviously, Sean, for the most part, not everybody in this room has been in this kind of world. If you answer customers, at the end of the day, a lot of these hard-nosed customers, and I grew up in a world where we're very close to Staten Island, a lot of these hard-nosed customers want their answers first, but oftentimes will give you a little bit of leg or a little bit of leniency once they've conceived the deal, or at least heard what they wanted to. And in other words, we've been, Randy has a young lady that we've been back and forth with now for about 4 weeks. I eventually conceived a deal at a short period of time. She gave me one window of opportunity that I needed to run through when she gave it to me, and I was just ready. So in other words, we negotiated an entire deal with $3,000. I can't do any more. I can't do any more. When she finally said, yes, I'll do the deal, she said, hey, listen, my husband just wants to make sure I'm not doing more than $4,000 out of my pocket, which means as a consumer, a lessee, she was anticipating taxes, tags, and motor vehicle on top of her financing. So being quick, I said, nope, you're only going to have to do your first payment in DMV. It's going to be less than 4,000. You're good. She said, in that case, it's a deal. But at that point, you go from making a short deal, you hear one little cue of insight, you got to take a shot, and you got to listen for those opportunities to then make that shot, right? You have to have that wherewithal and that fluency in your pitch, and without ever taking it away, saying, oh, that's all included, that's all included, that's all included. Customer was talking for 3 weeks, cash down. She knew at that point, boom, I'm going to have first payment, DMV, taxes. We took advantage, and the lady's coming in at 6:30. It's not a great deal, but it's a difference of that no deal to a deal. And those are the 10, 15 deals as a store we need to find.
It's a great point.
Yeah, to piggyback off of Steve also, piggyback off of Steve, I always do feel like that. We don't ask the customer how their buying was. So we just assume that they're just talking about money down, and we don't know that they do money down plus fees. We just assume that they do money down plus fees. So if you don't understand how they bought cars in the past, then you're not going to understand how to sell the car in the future.
That's such a good point. And that goes back to asking more questions and seeking to understand. And you know what, for some of you guys that are struggling with the decision maker objection, maybe that's not even the real objection, right? Maybe there's something else going on there that we need to uncover. So guys, remember that too. Whenever you feel like you're stuck, whenever you feel like you're stuck with a customer, challenge them to tell you the truth. Look them dead in the eye and be like, I don't understand. You picked this car out. You found it online. We got you approved. Like, you drove it. You love everything about it, right? Go back. If you did your steps and you did that trial close. What's getting in the way? Help me understand what's really getting in the way here. You got Jamil. How do you feel about that? Sorry about the echo, by the way. I don't know what's going on.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Like I said, it's basically knowing where the customer. So like a lot of the times, just give a prime example, we got Dan McGuffin that has a long list of people that come back. So what I try to do is I try to pull the whole deal, so I see what we did in the first place when we sold them the first 3 cars. So when Dan comes and says, oh, they don't want to put no money down. But I said, Dan, every other time they bought 3 cars, they put $5,000 down. So that doesn't make any sense. They're used to doing that. People get comfortable doing things and do it repetitively. And that's what we do. That's just human nature, because it's comfortability. So if a person is always putting $5,000 down and now all of a sudden they're telling me they don't want to put nothing down, to me, that doesn't make sense. So I got to ask more questions. Why is that? Why is this? And obviously I want to load my salesman as much as information as possible. So when they do that, they can say, but hey, last time, maybe Dan didn't remember that they put that money down, or maybe he didn't remember because they got it in the box. They didn't even get it out on the floor. Maybe we got the money down in the box, not out on the floor. So those are things that I think we always have to ask our customers is, last time you bought this car, how much did you put down? Last time you did, and figure out. And even if they didn't buy here and we can't look it up, we can't pull it up, there's nothing wrong with us asking, hey, when you went to Chevy, how much money did you put down?
And vice versa, Jamil, on to that point, how many customers do we work with that we have all of that information, whether it's through, whether it's a service concern and they're getting out of their car through mechanical reasons, and we can see that they've been in our service drive for 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months. Or they bought a car from so-and-so and they got bounced for that. We have all of that at our fingertips. And for me, that's always just being ready for the appointment. That's preparing myself, whether it's not for the appointment or for the appointment or the phone call. If I have enough information that before I pick up the phone, if I brief myself for 4 or 5 minutes on their previous experience, on their previous deal, on how much they, the dealership had to take off the car to earn their business, or how many rebates they had applied, or how much equity they had. All of that's going to make me a professional holding their file. And if I have that information, I immediately know too much about them that they're going to start going with me when I start suggesting certain things. I'm not calling them blindly. I'm not calling them guessing, and I'm not calling them asking. I'm calling them telling me, hey, Sean, you remember you put 1,000 down plus your first month last time. So I would imagine you're going to try to keep with that same structure, correct? And I'm not going to ask, I'm going to allude. I'm putting it out there, right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I'm still going to remember when when I first got here, we had these new body style Rogues, and the first bit of training that we had was get ready for your Rogue customers to jump out of their seat, because their payment is going up $80 to $100 if they buy the same car with the same structure, with the same money down. Doesn't matter. Their payment is going up $80 to $100. Then we had market adjustments, and now their payments are going up $300. But all of a sudden, we forgot about that $100 that Nissan said, don't forget about, because this is a new body style. This is a lot more value. This is a lot more of this, right? So I think just being a professional with the appointment, being prepared for the appointment, having the car ready for that set appointment, having the trade information in the system so you don't got to copy it down. I believe that being prepared for a phone call or for the appointment that you have makes that customer that much more cooperative when you sit down and you start talking from a position of strength as opposed to a position of interrogation.
And also, I feel like that we also need to work on is having those answers for those customers, because we know we do this every day. We know what objections are going to come up. We know that the wife is not going to be around, or the husband's not going to be around. We know that they got to go look at 5 other cars before they make a decision. We know that they got to talk to Uncle Louie at the garage to tell them that this car is the good car. So we have to have those ready, loaded, ready to, hey, this is what you want. Oh yeah, no problem. You want to take the car to him? Yes, no problem. You want to, those are things.
If Uncle Louie says no, then what would you do?
What?
If Uncle Louie said no, then what would we do?
Then we're going to look at what kind of car does Uncle Louie want you to get? Because I have 3 other brands, right? I have used cars.
Muscle memory. That's not muscle memory responses. So
you have to. Okay, so what else is? Did Uncle Louie said the Kia is good? Because everybody likes the Kia right now. It's not like we can't cross sell. It's not like we don't have pre-owned vehicles. So those objections, obviously they come, and sometimes we can't get over them. Even the best salesmen sometimes can't. But those are things that we want to have ready, that we're ready for.